Have you ever wondered what it was really like in the trenches of World War I? Beyond the grand strategies and famous battles, how did the average soldier simply get through the day? Let's step back in time and uncover the incredible resilience and ingenuity it took just to survive. The day for a soldier, or Tommy, as the British were called, often began long before sunrise. This was the stand-to hour, a time of high alert. Everyone, from the greenest recruit to the most seasoned veteran, would man the fire step of the trench, rifle in hand, bayonet fixed, peering into the misty, eerie darkness of no man's land. This was the most likely time for an enemy attack, and the tension was palpable. Every shadow, every sound could be a threat. After the stand down was called and the morning light revealed the bleak landscape, it was time for the first, and often most welcome, ritual of the day, breakfast. But forget what you imagine a meal to be. Rations were monotonous and often scarce. The staple was bully beef, a type of corned beef, and hardtack biscuits. These biscuits were so notoriously hard they were nicknamed tooth breakers. Soldiers would have to soak them in tea or water, or even grind them up to make a sort of porridge. If they were lucky, they might get a bit of bacon, bread, and jam. And, of course, there was tea, gallons of it. Tea was more than just a drink. It was a morale booster, a small comfort that brought a moment of warmth and normalcy to a completely abnormal world. With breakfast over, the day's work began, and work there was plenty of. Trenches were not permanent structures. They were constantly collapsing, flooding, and being damaged by shell fire. A huge part of a soldier's day was spent on maintenance. They would be filling sandbags, repairing the wooden trench walls known as revetments, and digging drainage channels to try and combat the ever-present mud and water. In some sectors, especially in places like Flanders, the trenches were constantly waterlogged. Soldiers lived for weeks on end with their feet submerged in cold, foul water, leading to a horrible condition called trench foot. It could cause their feet to go numb, swell up, and in severe cases, lead to gangrene and amputation. It was a constant, miserable battle against the elements. Another crucial and incredibly dangerous daily task was repairing the barbed wire defenses in no man's land. This work was usually done at night, under the cover of darkness. Small parties would crawl out of the trenches carrying coils of wire and wooden posts. They had to work in complete silence, as the slightest noise, the clink of a hammer, a whispered word could draw a hail of machine gun fire, or the terrifying glare of an enemy flare, exposing them completely. It was nerve-shredding work, where one wrong move could be your last. So, with all this danger and drudgery, how did they cope mentally? How did they keep from going mad? The answer lies in the small things. Letters from home were a lifeline. Mail call was the most anticipated event of the day. Reading and rereading letters from family and sweethearts, looking at photos of loved ones, provided a vital connection to the world they had left behind and were fighting to return to. They wrote back, too, though their letters were censored to prevent sensitive information from being leaked and to maintain morale back home. Humor, dark as it often was another essential survival tool. Soldiers developed their own slang, a language of the trenches. Napoo meant finished or dead, from the French il n'y a plus. A Blighty wound was a wound serious enough to get you sent home to Blighty or Britain, something many secretly wished for. They sang songs, often parodying popular tunes with cynical lyrics about their food, their officers, and their general situation. This gallows humor was a way to vent frustration and build a sense of shared experience and camaraderie. This bond between soldiers was perhaps the most powerful survival mechanism of all. The men in a platoon became a family. They relied on each other for everything, for covering a friend's watch so he could get some sleep, for sharing a cigarette, for dragging a wounded comrade back from no man's land. They understood what no one else could: the constant fear, the boredom, the shared misery. This brotherhood was forged in the crucible of the trenches, and for many, it was the only thing that got them through. As the day wore on, there was always the threat of the sniper. Just peeking your head over the parapet of the trench for a second could be a fatal mistake. Soldiers became experts at staying low and moving unseen. They used periscopes, simple devices made with mirrors and a wooden frame, to observe the enemy lines without exposing themselves. It was a deadly cat-and-mouse game played every single day. Then there were the pests. The trenches were infested with rats. These weren't ordinary rats. They were huge, emboldened by the constant supply of food from rations and, grimly, the dead. They would crawl over sleeping soldiers and steal food right from their packs. Lice were another constant torment, a plague they called chatting. The lice lived in the seams of their uniforms, causing intense itching and a skin condition known as trench fever. No matter how much they tried, getting rid of them was nearly impossible. When night fell, the cycle began again. While some men tried to get a few hours of precious, fitful sleep in dugouts carved into the side of the trench, others were sent out on patrols or listening posts in no man's land. These were arguably the most terrifying jobs. Lying in a muddy shell hole, sometimes just yards from the enemy line, listening for any sign of an impending attack required nerves of steel. Every rustle, every cough sent a jolt of adrenaline through them. Surviving the day in World War I was a testament to human endurance. It was a life of contrasts, hours of monotonous boredom punctuated by moments of sheer terror. It was about finding warmth in a cup of tea, comfort in a letter from home, and strength in the man standing next to you. These soldiers weren't superheroes. They were ordinary people, farmers, factory workers, clerks thrust into an extraordinary and horrific situation. Their survival was a daily victory, a triumph of spirit against the mud, the fear, and the chaos of the Great War. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this glimpse into the daily life of a WWI soldier moving, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from history. We'll see you in the next one.